Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain, day 318 of the current situation. And today is the last day for the Health Minister, Mr. Illa. He has decided to abandon his position in the middle of what is perhaps the worst health crisis that the country has ever seen. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, let's get into the news. And as I said, it's the last day for the Health Minister, Mr. Illa. As we can see here, he is going to leave the Ministry of Health today, Tuesday, in order to focus on the Catalan campaign. The new head of the Health Ministry will take office this Wednesday at the Palacio de la Zarzuela. So Mr. Illa there deciding to get out of national politics and go into regional politics for those elections in Catalonia, which are scheduled for the middle of next month. As we saw there, his replacement has yet to be named, but whoever it is that replaces Mr. Illa is coming into the position at a very, very difficult time. As this headline points out, the current health situation is one of dosage problems, uncontrolled infection rates, and pressure in hospitals on the rise. And this is the outlook for whoever succeeds Mr. Illa. It is almost the worst time to get to the Ministry of Health. Salvador Illa's march to be a candidate for the presidency of Catalonia, announced on December the 30th, becomes effective this Tuesday. The month that has elapsed since then has served to make the worst end-of-year predictions of the evolution of the pandemic come true and splash the vaccination plan against COVID-19 with problems. Whoever is the choice of President Pedro Sánchez to take office, everything points to the current Minister of Territorial Policy, Carolina Darias, will have little time to acclimatise, much less than 100 days of grace. So there we go, not a good outlook for the person who is going to fill Mr. Illa's shoes. Problems with the vaccination plans, the infection rate is out of control, and hospital pressure on the increase. Now, weekend figures about the health situation here in Spain were released yesterday, and they were not good. We can see here that Spain registered a new weekend record with 93,822 infections and 767 deaths, and the incidence rises to 884 cases. Spain continues to escalate the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, registering 93,822 new cases this Monday since Friday, a new record after the weekend. In addition, 767 deaths have been reported, the highest number in this third wave, with coronavirus deaths now reaching 56,208. The transmission of the coronavirus grows in almost all the autonomous communities without exception, which continues to have serious consequences in hospital occupation, especially in ICUs, which find themselves at 40% of their available places caring for seriously ill patients with coronavirus, up 3 points since the last report. So the health crisis again breaking records, and this is leading the autonomous governments around the country to strengthen measures. And as we can see here from this headline, the autonomous governments around Spain are toughening measures more for the fear of the new strain, aka the British strain. The ICUs, or the UCIs as they are known in Spain, can't take any more pressure. On average, 40% of these beds are already occupied only by coronavirus patients. Most hospitals have unsustainable levels of occupancy of critical units, which prevents care for both COVID and non-COVID patients, and that inevitably means more deaths. Added to this is the presence of the British variant, more contagious and already found in many of the regions, which has led regional governments to further tighten the restrictions imposed after Christmas. Fear of its greater transmissibility and the forecast of a higher prevalence in the coming weeks forces regional governments to impose semi-confinement. So autonomous governments around the country tightening measures, but there's still no talk of a national lockdown. But with Mr. Illa now out of the way, who has been one of the biggest opponents of a national lockdown, will things start to change as of tomorrow? We'll wait and see. Now let's have a look at the health data around Spain by looking at a map of the country as a whole and various autonomous communities. We'll start here with a map of Spain, and we can see that the risk level countrywide is extreme. The total amount of cases has now clicked over the 2.5 million mark. We can see the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days now up to 884. There have been 1,369 COVID-related deaths in the last 7 days around Spain. There are currently 30,483 patients hospitalised with COVID around the country, country, and there are 4,284 COVID patients in ICUs, which, as we saw before, is just over 40% of all ICUs in the country. We'll have a look at Murcia now. The risk level there has been upgraded to extreme. The total amount of cases, the AI rate for the last 14 days now at 1,371. There have been 81 COVID-related deaths in the last 7 days. There are currently 1,093 patients hospitalized in Murcia with COVID, and there are 161 people currently occupying ICUs with COVID in the Murcia region. The Valencian community now, the risk level there is also extreme. The total amount of cases, the accumulated incidence rate the last 14 days now at 1,339. There have been 345 COVID-related deaths in the last 7 days. There are currently 5,276 people hospitalized in the Valencian community with COVID, and there are 734 COVID patients in ICUs, which is over 60% of ICUs in the Valencian community. Now, the COVID-19 vaccination plan here in Spain has been surrounded by controversy in recent times. Various politicians and family members of politicians have decided to give themselves a sneaky little jab of the vaccine and put themselves before other members of the community that are considered at greater risk. We saw the health minister in Murcia resigned last week because of a sneaky jab, and the head of the armed forces here in Spain also handed in his resignation because he took a jab when he wasn't supposed to. And all of this has led to one newspaper asking the question, is sneaking in vaccines a crime? The prosecutor's office seeks a way to impute the politicians. Although the law does not expressly sanction this type of irregularity in the immunisation process, the conduct could fit into crimes such as trespass, embezzlement, or passive bribery. So there we go. Should people like the politicians that jumped the queue in the vaccination plan be charged with criminal offences, or should the fact that they resigned be enough? I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below what your opinions are on the topic. Now, there's been a fair bit of talk in recent times about whether or not Spain is going to open to foreign tourists this year in 2021. We all know that 2020 was a disastrous year for the tourism sector in Spain, and this headline here puts into perspective just how bad 2020 was, with overnight stays in hotels in 2020 registering a historic drop of 73.3%. due to the coronavirus. The fall is greater among foreigners, 81.7% less, than among Spaniards at only 57.6%. Nights spent in hotels in Spain totaled 91.6 million in 2020, representing a year-on-year drop of 73.3%, its largest drop in the entire historical series, according to the National Institute of Statistics, the INE, due to the impact of the coronavirus on tourism. So there we go, nights spent in hotels here in Spain down 73.3%, and it's no wonder those vulture funds are circling over various hotels in tourist areas here in Spain. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. One here from Wendy and Kev. Hi, as a resident of England, I have to reply to the Spanish newspapers. Fake news. We have not seen empty shelves at all, plenty of fresh fish. Where are the papers getting this rubbish information from? Seriously, nothing has changed whatsoever. Yeah, Wendy and Kev, thanks for the comment. It was a bit of a hot topic in yesterday's comment section. Lots of people saying that there are no problems whatsoever in the UK regarding supermarket shelves, whether they're stocked or not, fresh fish and the like. We saw yesterday that a Spanish newspaper said the opposite, that some supermarket shelves in the UK were empty, there was a problem with fresh fish, and that general costs, like those ones associated to online deliveries, had risen since Brexit kicked in. But according to comments like this one, and other comments from many people that said something similar to what Wendy and Kev have mentioned here, that is not the case. Fake news, as you have pointed out, and I don't know why a newspaper like El Mundo would publish such a thing if it is not true. I think what they did was take various sources of information that have been published over the last month or so. For example, in Scotland, I think there were some protests over rotten fish. I think there were some cases in Northern Ireland about supermarket shelves being empty. And of course, there was that problem when Mr. Macron in France decided to shut the border. So I think they put everything together to paint a fairly bad picture of what's happening in the UK. But thanks to everybody out there for pointing out that it is not the case and things are working fairly normal in the UK at the moment. One here from Both and Spy. Hi Stuart, thank you very much for your continuing vlogs. After reading the headline at the 45-second mark and reading the comments from fellow followers regarding shortages caused by Brexit, it is very clear that mainstream media must at best be taken with a pinch of salt, or at worst, completely distrusted with the news they report. Yeah, Both and Spy, thanks for the comment. You're right, we need to take some news with a pinch of salt. We can't trust everything that we read. That's why I think it's always good to look at news from various sources in order to come to your own conclusion about what what is happening. I saw that piece of news about the UK. I didn't believe it, of course. That's why I posed the question to various people out there. But I know that there would be lots of people in Spain that do believe everything that newspapers tell them. Newspapers nowadays, especially the online ones, have fallen into the trap of clickbait. If you don't know what clickbait is, it's when you see some type of sensationalist headline that makes you click on that article, and sometimes when you read the article, it has nothing to do with the headline. Clickbaiting is a fairly common practice on social media, on sites like YouTube or Facebook, and now the mainstream media also has to use clickbait because they're losing views to other platforms, and that's why we get headlines like the one that we did yesterday and other headlines that we can read in the news on a daily basis. But unfortunately, it is what it is, and there's a lot of competition out there, and that is most likely one of the reasons why newspapers are now starting to do this type of thing, because they need to get people reading their online newspapers and paying for the service, because it's a very, very competitive world out there now for traditional media. One here from Richard. In the Iceland in Puerto Banús, apparently the freezers were all empty and the shelves very low. Iceland might have to close down all their shops until it gets sorted. Yeah, Richard, thanks for the comment. I did read in a couple of online newspapers that that was the case in British-type supermarkets here in Spain, that they were having trouble getting some of those essential products that they had no problem selling up until recently. And I also read that one supermarket down in Andalusia had to apologise to customers for not having everything in stock. But I thought we could go straight to the source and call that supermarket in Puerto Banús and see what the situation is.
Overseas Puerto Banús, how can I help?
Yeah, hi, I just wanted to inquire. I had a friend who went into one of your supermarkets recently and said that there was a bit of a problem buying some frozen goods. Is that true?
We had a major breakdown, but it's all up and running again now. Everything's fine.
Oh, so everything's back up and running as normal?
It's all back, yeah. All here.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. See you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
So there we go, all sorted. One here from Annalise. Hi Stuart, thanks for the great updates. We've been following you for the past year and your channel have been a valuable source of information as our family are moving to Spain from South Africa this coming Saturday. We will be landing in Barcelona and staying there for 3 days before travelling to Oviedo by car. Will this even be possible for us with the current provincial borders being closed? How will we be able to drive from Barcelona to Oviedo crossing several provincial borders? Do you know if any special documentation is needed? Yeah, Annalise, thanks for the comment. And I can imagine you are a little bit worried about travelling across Spain at the moment from Barcelona to Oviedo, which is in the northwest of the country, virtually the opposite point to Barcelona. So you're going to have to cross various autonomous communities here in Spain to get to your destination. Now, I've heard various stories over the past few weeks about people who have been travelling around Spain, and apparently there are not a lot of border controls, at least during the day. Another problem is at night when curfews are imposed. Apparently the civil guard, for example, are more active at night in order to stop people breaking the curfew. However, in your case, coming to live in Spain, I imagine that you have all of your residency documents in order, and therefore you should be able to prove that official residence in Oviedo, and you shouldn't have any trouble reaching your final destination. And there are some mobility permission documents that you can download on the internet, so maybe you can look into getting one of those, filling it out with your details, so that if you do get stopped by the police, you can show them that document and you shouldn't have any problems. One here from Tony. Hi Stuart, please could you tell me if the pension scheme in Spain has changed? I live in the UK, but I receive a pension from Spain, and I have heard that it has gone down. Many thanks, Tony. Yeah, Tony, thanks for the comment. I haven't heard anything about pensions going down. In fact, I heard the opposite. I think I read the other day that pensions are going up in January. But until I speak to my girlfriend's parents or auntie who are pensioners, I won't be able to confirm it. And there has been a fair bit of talk about pensions and the pension systems in Spain in the press in recent times, but not about current pensions. They're talking more about future pensions and whether changes need to be made to the model for the future generations of pensioners, people like me. It's all a bit of a mess at the moment, and there has been infighting between various ministers from the Podemos side of the government and the socialist side of the government. So the topic of pensions is a fairly hot one here in Spain at the moment. One here from Joe. What do you think of Fernando Simón? He seems at every stage to underestimate the virus. He has been frequently wrong, saying the curve was stabilising when contagions then soared. Yeah, Joe, thanks for the comment. My opinion about Fernando Simón is that he is in a very, very tough job at the moment, and he looks very fatigued. I think this health crisis has got to him, and he's under a lot of pressure at the moment, and there are many, many people calling for his resignation. But to be fair, I don't think anybody around the world has got this virus right. I don't think that any health minister or any health spokesman around the world has been able to hit the nail on the head when it comes to this virus. But from what I hear, Mr. Simon is going to be one of the first changes that the new health minister makes when he or she takes over that position tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on what happens to Mr. Simon in coming days or weeks. And finally, one here from Keith. El señor ya se ha ido mía. Yeah, Keith, thanks for the comment and thanks for coming up with that nice little rhyme there in Spanish. Has Mr. Illa gone missing in action? And that is the question that a lot of people have been asking around Spain for the last 6 months. But as of today, when it comes to the health crisis here in Spain, Mr. Illa is a thing of the past, and I don't think we will be seeing too much of him in the future. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.